I stood alone after graduation watching classmates embrace their families. 13 years earlier, my parents had dropped me off at Westbrook Academy with promises to visit often. The memory of their car disappearing down the driveway still haunts me. I earned perfect grades hoping they would notice, but my achievements echoed in an empty auditorium. Today was supposed to be different. I scanned the crowd one last time, searching for familiar faces that never came. Before I share my story, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever felt invisible. Life before boarding school was comfortable but emotionally barren. Our colonial-style house in Connecticut housed a family that rarely interacted. My father, a corporate lawyer, spent most evenings locked in his home office. My mother, an interior designer, traveled frequently for work. I occupied myself with books and imagination, creating the warmth I craved through stories. I remember the night they told me about Westbrook Academy. It was one of our rare family dinners, the formal dining room unusually occupied. My mother wore her business smile, the one reserved for clients and uncomfortable conversations. My father cleared his throat napkin, precisely folded beside his barely touched salmon. "Josephine, we have wonderful news," my mother announced, voice bright but eyes focused just above my head. "You have been accepted to Westbrook Academy, one of the finest boarding schools in the country." I was 9 years old. The concept of boarding school existed only in the British novels. I devoured stories of orphans and adventures far from home. "But I like my school," I said, fork suspended midair. "Sarah and I are going to be in the same class next year." "This is an incredible opportunity," my father interjected, checking his watch subtly. "The connections you will make there will set you up for life. The education is unparalleled." What they did not say: "We find parenting inconvenient. You complicate our schedules. We would prefer to outsource your childhood." When September arrived, we drove 3 hours to the sprawling campus. Stone buildings with ivy creeping up the walls stood majestically against vibrant green lawns. Other families lingered, mothers crying, fathers giving awkward hugs. My parents efficiently delivered me to my dormitory, a red brick building housing 20 girls my age. "We will visit on Parents' Weekend," my mother promised, straightening my collar unnecessarily. "October will be here before you know it." My father patted my shoulder, the brief physical contact as startling as it was rare. "Make us proud, Josephine." They were gone within 20 minutes of arrival. My small suitcase unpacked, teddy bear hidden beneath my pillow where no one would see. I watched from the window as their car grew smaller down the long driveway, wondering what I had done to deserve exile. That first night in the dormitory, I silently cried into my pillow, trying not to disturb my roommate Jessica, whose parents had spent the entire day helping her decorate her side of the room. Jessica noticed anyway, climbing out of her bed and sitting beside me. "My brother cried too his first year," she whispered, offering a chocolate bar smuggled from home. "But now he loves it here. Says it gets better." Jessica became my first ally, teaching me the unspoken rules of our new world. We learned to navigate communal bathrooms, strict schedules, and mandatory study hours. Together we explored the massive library, finding comfort between dusty shelves and ancient knowledge. I threw myself into academics, determined to prove my worth. My first report card boasted straight as which I proudly mailed home with a carefully composed letter about my adjustment. 2 weeks later, a brief note arrived with my mother's elegant handwriting. "Well done. Keep up the good work." No invitation home, no mention of missing me. My letters home became weekly rituals, detailed accounts of classes and small triumphs. Their responses grew shorter, less frequent. Phone calls dwindled from weekly to monthly, often cut short by important meetings or dinner reservations. I adapted, finding joy in small victories. My English teacher praised my essay on Jane Austen. I was selected for the junior choir. I learned to play field hockey, discovering I had natural athletic ability. Each achievement I documented dutifully in letters that received increasingly perfunctory acknowledgments. When Thanksgiving approached, I received a short email from my father, Josephine. "Unfortunately, your mother and I cannot rearrange our schedules for the holiday. We have arranged for you to stay at school. Mrs. Winters will ensure you are comfortable. Enjoy your holiday. Father." I was one of 3 students remaining on campus during the break. Mrs. Winters, the dorm supervisor, invited us to her apartment for Thanksgiving dinner. She prepared turkey with all the traditional sides, creating a semblance of holiday warmth. She spoke of her own daughter, now grown with children of her own, who would arrive the next day. "Family comes in many forms," she told me, serving extra cranberry sauce on my plate after noticing my preference. "Sometimes the family we choose matters more than the family we are born into." I nodded politely, too young to understand the wisdom in her words, too hurt by my parents' absence to find comfort in philosophy. After Thanksgiving, I observed other families with new awareness during weekend visits. I watched fathers carrying suitcases for their daughters, mothers bringing homemade cookies and fixing scarves against the cold. I saw the casual physical affection I had never known: hugs, hair ruffling, linked arms, walking across campus. My 10th birthday arrived in February. Jessica organized a small celebration with cupcakes smuggled from the dining hall. Miss Anderson, my math teacher, gave me a beautiful fountain pen with my name engraved on the side. "For all those stories you write," she said with a kind smile. No package arrived from home, though. 3 days later, the school office called me to collect a card containing $50 and a generic birthday message signed by both parents but written in my mother's hand. I developed coping mechanisms for disappointment. When parents' weekend approached and no confirmation came from mine, I volunteered for library duty. When holiday breaks loomed, I arranged to stay with Jessica, whose parents welcomed me with genuine warmth, though they never mentioned my situation directly. The school year ended with an awards ceremony. I received recognition for highest achievement in English and mathematics. The auditorium filled with proud parents clutching cameras and flowers. My name was called twice. I walked across the stage twice. I returned to an empty row twice. Later, a package arrived, containing an expensive leather journal and a note. "Congratulations on your academic success. Love, Mother and Father." The word love felt like a foreign language, one they had never bothered to teach me. Years passed with diminishing contact. Each semester brought fewer letters, shorter phone calls. By 12, I recognized the pattern but still fought against it. I called weekly, leaving cheerful messages about my accomplishments, hoping to spark interest. My father's secretary began answering more frequently, promising he would return my call when less busy. Those return calls rarely materialized. At 13, I won a regional essay contest. My English teacher, Mr. Thompson, sat with me in the audience during the ceremony, applauding loudly when my name was announced. He took a photo of me receiving my certificate, which he framed and gave to me. "Someone should document these moments," he said. "They matter." That summer, Jessica invited me to her family lake house in Maine. 2 glorious weeks of swimming, campfires, and normalcy. Her parents never questioned why I had nowhere else to go, creating space for me in their family photos and traditions. Mrs. Klein taught me to make her famous blueberry pie. Mr. Klein took us fishing at dawn, patient with my complete lack of skill. It was the first time I understood what family could feel like. When I returned to school for fall semester, I called home to share stories of my summer. The number had been disconnected. Panic rising in my chest, I contacted my father at his office. "The house sold quickly," he explained, sounding distracted. "We meant to update you with our new information." "Where do you live now?" I asked, trying to keep accusation from my voice. "Your mother has taken an apartment in Boston. I relocated to Chicago for work last month." "Chicago? You moved to another state without telling me. It was a sudden opportunity, Josephine." "These things happen in business. Are you and Mom?" I couldn't finish the question. A heavy sigh. "We decided it was best to separate. The divorce will be finalized next quarter. Your mother will contact you with her new information when she is settled." I sat frozen in the phone booth, receiver pressed against my ear. My parents had dissolved their marriage, moved to different cities, and neither had thought to tell me. The realization crystallized I was an afterthought in their lives, a loose end to be addressed when settled. When Christmas arrived, I received separate cards from separate states. My father included a check. My mother sent expensive bath products inappropriate for a 14-year-old. Neither mentioned visiting. Neither invited me to their new homes. I began searching for them online, finding breadcrumbs of their separate lives. My father appeared in a Chicago business journal, photographed at a charity gala with a woman described as his companion. My mother launched a new design website featuring an apartment nothing like our family home, all traces of our former life erased. During my third year at Westbrook, emotional exhaustion caught up with me. My grades slipped. I withdrew from choir and sports. Jessica found me crying in our room more frequently, unable to articulate the hollow ache that had become my constant companion. The school counselor, Dr. Barnes, called me to her office after a teacher expressed concern. "Josephine, several faculty members have noticed changes in your behavior. Would you like to talk about what's troubling you?" The simple kindness broke my carefully constructed dam. Words poured out about parents who had essentially discarded me, about feeling like an unwanted possession stored away at boarding school. "Doctor," Barnes listened without interruption, tissues ready but judgment absent. "Have you considered that their behavior reflects their limitations, not your worth?" she asked gently. I had not. In my teenage mind, the only explanation for their abandonment was my fundamental inadequacy. Dr. Barnes suggested weekly sessions, providing a space to process anger and grief I had suppressed for years. Mr. Thompson became another unexpected ally. Finding me alone in the library on a Saturday, he pulled up a chair instead of moving on. "Literature saved me at your age," he shared. "My home situation was complicated. Books showed me different possibilities for life, different ways of being human." He created an independent study course for me, exploring literature about resilience and self-discovery. Through characters navigating abandonment and forging their own paths, I found language for my experience. I began writing my own stories, processing pain through fiction when reality felt unbearable. During spring term, I discovered something disturbing while delivering a form to the administrative office. The secretary stepped away momentarily, leaving my file open on her desk. A single glance revealed my tuition had been paid in full through graduation, a lump sum deposited before my first year even began. The implications struck me like physical pain. My parents had planned their disentanglement from my life from the beginning. Boarding school wasn't an opportunity for me, but a solution for them: prepaid childcare until I reached adulthood. I was not temporarily inconvenient, but permanently unwanted. Senior year arrived with total silence from both parents. 6 months had passed since my last communication with either one. College applications loomed, requiring parent financial information and signatures I knew would be difficult to obtain. In October, I made a final desperate attempt to reach my father, calling his office repeatedly until his irritated secretary put him on the line. "Josephine, this is not a good time. I am preparing for court." "When would be a good time, Dad? I need your help with college applications. The financial aid forms require your information." A long pause. "Have you considered taking a gap year? Many students find it valuable to work before college." The suggestion revealed everything. He had no intention of supporting my education beyond what he had already paid for boarding school. I was on my own at 17. "I will handle it myself," I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. "Goodbye, Dad." That evening, I discovered the final piece of the puzzle. A social media notification alerted me to a former neighbor being tagged in photos. Curious about news from my old hometown, I clicked through. There stood my father in a family portrait on Christmas morning, arm around a woman I did not know, surrounded by 3 children wearing matching pajamas. The caption read, "Annual Klein Family Christmas complete this year." The truth hit with sickening clarity. My father had not only moved on from my mother, but created an entirely new family, complete with children he apparently had time to parent. Children worthy of holiday traditions and matching pajamas, children he chose to be with. I collapsed on my bed, phone clutched in my hand, unable to breathe through the pain. Jessica found me there an hour later, still staring at the ceiling, tears dried on my face. "I found my replacement siblings," I said, voice hollow as I showed her the image. That night broke something fundamental inside me. I stopped eating, stopped completing assignments, stopped showing up for choir practice. Depression enveloped me in gray fog, making each day a struggle to accomplish basic functions. I considered dropping out, wondered what would happen if I simply walked away from Westbrook. Would anyone even notice if I disappeared? One particularly dark evening, sitting alone on the cold bathroom floor while my dormmates attended dinner, I reached the moment that would ultimately save me. Rock bottom arrived with a clarity that cut through the fog. No one was coming to rescue me. My parents would never be the people I needed them to be. If I wanted a future, I would have to create it entirely on my own. The realization was both devastating and freeing. If no one cared what happened to me, then no one could stop me either. I was untethered but unrestrained. I could become anyone, go anywhere, build any life I chose. The next morning, I walked into Dr. Barnes' office without an appointment. I need help applying to colleges without parental support, I stated, and I need to figure out how to become legally independent. Doctor. Barnes nodded, unsurprised. I have been expecting this conversation. Let me make some calls. What followed was a crash course in self-advocacy. I met with Westbrook's financial aid officer who helped me navigate applications for independent student status. Mr. Thompson connected me with his sister, a lawyer who offered pro bono advice about emancipation. The school registrar helped gather documentation of my parents' effective abandonment. I applied to 12 colleges, writing essays about resilience and self-reliance that came from painful experience. I researched scholarships obsessively, applying for anything I qualified for. My grades recovered as I channeled my pain into productivity. When acceptance letters arrived in spring, including one from an Ivy League school with a generous financial aid package, I celebrated with the family I had created: Jessica, Mr. Thompson, Dr. Barnes, and Mrs. Winters, who baked my favorite chocolate cake for the occasion. Throughout these months, I sent one final letter to both parents informing them of my college plans and graduation date. Neither responded. As graduation approached, I allowed myself one final foolish hope that they might appear for this milestone. I reserved 2 seats in the auditorium that I knew would remain empty. Graduation day dawned bright and clear. I dressed carefully in the new outfit Jessica and I had picked during a rare mall trip. I arranged my cap, straightened my honor cords, and took a deep breath. This achievement was mine alone, earned through perseverance they would never comprehend. When my name was called, I heard cheers from faculty who had become my surrogate family. I accepted my diploma with steady hands, scanning the audience one last time for faces that were not there. After the ceremony, I stood alone amidst emotional family reunions, the contrast physically painful. Jessica found me there, her parents trailing behind with bouquets and cameras. "You are coming to dinner with us," she announced, linking her arm through mine. "Mom made reservations for 5. We have something to celebrate." The years following graduation taught me what genuine healing requires. College provided distance and perspective, allowing me to build an identity separate from abandonment. I chose psychology as my major, drawn to understanding the family dynamics that shaped me. Initially, I avoided speaking about my childhood, crafting vague answers about parents working abroad. Shame kept me silent until a supportive roommate helped me understand I had nothing to be ashamed of. Their absence reflected their failings, not mine. Through campus counseling services, I began proper therapy. My counselor helped me process grief for the childhood I deserved but never received. I learned that anger was appropriate, that forgiveness was optional, and that healing did not require reconciliation. "Your parents were emotionally unavailable people who should never have become parents," my therapist stated plainly during one session. "Their inadequacy created your wound but does not define your future." I built chosen family from genuine connections. My college roommate included me in her large Italian family gatherings. My study group celebrated holidays together, creating new traditions. A kind professor invited students without holiday plans to her home each Thanksgiving, creating space where no one felt like an imposition. 4 years after graduation, I received a LinkedIn message from my father. His company was opening an office near my city. Would I be interested in meeting for coffee? With my therapist's support, I agreed, setting clear boundaries about time and location. The man across the coffee shop table was a stranger with familiar eyes. Gray now dominated his temples. He spoke awkwardly about his work, his new wife, his stepchildren. He asked superficial questions about my career but showed no curiosity about the person I had become. "I know we were not always there for you," he said, finally, studying his coffee cup. "Your mother and I were focused on our careers. We thought sending you to the best school was giving you the best opportunity. You abandoned me," I replied calmly, the words no longer burning my throat. "You paid to have me raised by strangers because parenting was inconvenient." He flinched but offered no meaningful defense. The meeting ended without resolution but provided confirmation that I had outgrown my need for his approval. I walked away understanding that some parents are incapable of giving what their children need most. The deficiency was never mine to fix. My mother reached out 2 years later when illness made her contemplative about past mistakes. Our reunion was equally unsatisfying. Her apology centered on her own regret rather than my experience. I maintained polite distance afterward, limiting contact to occasional phone calls that protected my hard-won peace. The greatest healing came through building a life that honored my values. I established a scholarship for boarding school students without family support. I mentored young people navigating education without parental guidance. I chose partners capable of emotional availability and ended relationships when red flags appeared. Most importantly, I learned to parent myself with the compassion my younger self desperately needed. I celebrated my own achievements. I comforted myself during difficult times. I created a home that felt safe and warm and permanent. Today, 13 years after that solitary graduation, I understand that family is defined by consistent care, not biological connection. My chosen family shows up. They remember birthdays and call when they say they will. They create space for my full, complicated self. The abandoned child still exists within me, but no longer drives my decisions. I have learned to hold my own hand through dark moments. I have discovered that resilience is not about denying pain, but moving forward despite it, carrying your wounds with grace, and refusing to let them determine your destination. Have you ever had to build your own support system when traditional family disappointed you? Share your experience in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please hit subscribe and like this video so others might find comfort in knowing they are not alone in their journey. Remember, the family you create can be more powerful than the family you were born into. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find or build the loving community every person deserves.